I actually think the way that the advertising industry wants to do marketing is like the Soviet Union.
This is Gary Vaynerchuk. I don't need to do an intro for him, do I?
I was raised by like a group of creative directors that kind of didn't like you. We were like taught to hate you, but we didn't know why.
I learned very early in my life, whether the crowd was booing or cheering, that had no impact on the outcome of the game.
He's had his fair share of criticism.
Everybody said that I would be gone in a minute. This is a fly-by-night. This is a flash in a pan. That's not what happened. Yeah. We built the largest independent global media and creative agency in the world. Whether they were right, I was right, that is what has become.
His social media content about social media has made him a leading figure in business and in culture.
The amount of conversation in this town about social media creative is almost non-existent. It's so powerful that it's ruining our children's lives, but it's not powerful enough to sell fucking sneakers?
Yeah.
What the fuck is everyone talking about?
In this interview, Gary doesn't hold back.
I love the creatives. I'm creative. But this is Madison Avenue. This is corporate. This isn't creative. Go be an artist if you're an artist. Don't take a corporate job and act like a fucking artist.
Gary, thank you so much for letting me do this.
Happy to do it.
Thank you for switching us from a public beach to a private yacht. It's awesome.
That's Mother Nature.
Yeah.
I was hyped.
No, dude,
I was hyped for the beach.
It's awesome sitting on the jacuzzi in your yacht, which is the best way to do this. I feel like this isn't even a real interview. It's just a faked it to get on your yacht, which has been awesome. This book is awesome.
Thank you.
I've listened to it and I've read it. By the way, the audio might be my favorite audiobook of all time because you kind of go off script.
A lot.
Yeah. Every other line, you're like, wait, let me explain what this is, which is awesome. It feels like I'm in a lecture like you're describing the book, you're reading the book, but then you're like, let me tell you about what I mean in this thing, which is really just awesome.
Thank you.
And in a part of the book, very early on, you stop and you're like, I have an idea.
And I call Brandon.
And you call and you do. Is that like kind of your process?
I've gone off script in every audiobook. This book itself is like one of the first. I feel like I jab, right hook.
Yeah.
Which was 10 years ago. Was the other time I did this where I let people into the depths of the cooking.
Yeah.
You know, it was like the recipes, not just the theory of how to make good food.
Yeah.
And so I'm affected by my own content in a weird way as well, right? I was saying something, it was contextual to something I was thinking about at the wine store. And so that's what's beautiful about the audiobook. I went off script and called Brandon. And I'm pumped with HarperCollins, my publisher. I wasn't even sure if they were gonna keep that. That was like real, I was going off script, as you said.
Yeah.
This was like third move. I was off script and actually doing something.
You're briefing an ad in the middle of the audiobook and you kept it in.
And you know, it's funny, the reason I even knew that, I kind of blank out a lot of times with the way I do things, is it has been the thing that has been most brought up to me this week by people reading the book. That one moment, me going off script, not only describing what I'm talking about, but going even further and actually in the moment living the ad. And
do you do that a lot? Do you brief, like, do you just have ideas for your ads for things? You're like, hey, I need to make this content.
All the time. I think for my content, for the businesses that I run, and I think that's, being at Cannes where this is the ad world's week. The thing that I am most proud of by a country mile professionally, currently in the job that I do, is I'm an actual practitioner of the craft that I'm the CEO of. And most of this town is run by CEOs that are executives and aren't of their craft. Yeah. And I think there's a very big advantage in that. And I think in general, especially for all the youngsters that are watching this that are on the come up, don't get high in your own supply. Like once you start getting up, that's when you have to go back. You have to almost force yourself to do more of what people get very confused. They get to a point where there's an inflection point of growth. Yeah. And they think they have to do something different to get higher. The reality is you have to double down on the shit that got you there. Yeah. And people get very confused and get very egotistical and start to think there's somebody. Yeah. And it's a real mistake.
Yeah, I actually want to roll back to that time where like I started in the industry and I was a creative at the industry, and I feel like you kind of found yourself in the industry because you were just so good at doing this. And at that time, what did it feel like when you joined this industry? I felt like I was raised by like a group of creative directors that were like, kind of didn't like you.
Yes, that's right.
And what was that like? I'm sure it's
that was beautiful. I loved that.
Yeah.
I love,
we were like taught to hate you, but we didn't know why.
Yeah, because I was poking.
Yeah.
I was poking, and I think the smartest of the people that hated me realized I was poking and I wasn't gonna go away and I was gonna be right.
Yeah.
The 99% that weren't the smartest just didn't like that I was challenging. I don't know, should we be giving awards to commercials that nobody sees?
Yeah.
I think that might be a problem.
Yeah.
Like people walk around here like they're winning an Oscar. The Oscars people know.
Yeah.
There's no one in real life on earth of the 8 billion people that are not part of the advertising industry, zero of them know what a Cannes Lion Award is.
Yeah.
Zero.
Yeah.
So what the fuck are we doing here?
In your book, you talk about, you're like, when advertisers think about Nike, they think about just do it. But
Yes.
normal people don't think about that.
And ironically, normal people know that tagline.
Yeah.
But they don't like delusionally put it on a pedestal. They know that, ironically, that's one of the taglines they actually all know.
Right.
Like I don't know if the world knows Toyota's Let's Go places, even though they pound it on commercials. They don't really know it. But somebody buying sweatpants
Yeah.
at a Nike outlet store in Oklahoma in the United States,
Yeah.
they need to see a different ad than someone buying a $4,000 Air Force One off StockX in an Off-White collaboration. I don't think the industry is good at understanding context.
Yeah.
And I also will say that the industry, back to why you were all taught to hate me, it's because the industry talks about creativity, but they're actually holding up a medium.
Yeah.
They're holding up a form factor.
Yeah.
This town is religious about something of yesterday. It's called the 30-second commercial.
Yeah.
And when Don Draper was doing it, it was cool. He was like that. Mad Men was a good show. Those dudes, predominantly, unfortunately, and some women, yes, they did. They were cool enough to go to Midtown and drink 18 bourbons. They did have sex in the office. Like they were cool. They were making commercials that when they went to the country club, they're like, you made the 7-Up commercial? Holy shit.
Yeah.
Nobody fucking says that that culture is not being done by this industry.
Yeah.
And so, you know, as someone who passionately has communicated that for a long time, I'm empathetic to why the classic creative didn't like me at first. What's ironic, and this is where I sense you were going, is what's starting to happen now is interesting.
Yeah.
Because now we can't fake it anymore.
Yeah.
Now that the walls have closed in, now they're like, no, the amount there was a guy yesterday who I literally listened to shitting on me aggressively at the Carlton 8 years ago, who came up to me yesterday, was like, Gary, I gotta tell you, I always had your back. And sometimes I'm my dad, sometimes I'm my mom. Last night I was my mom, so I was gracious, like, thanks, bro. But in my brain, I was like, but I know something that you don't know.
Yeah.
And so, but honestly, all of that is just fodder. That's just silliness. That's just like that's like playing, to me, all the back talk, that's sports. That's like trash talking when you play. I'm not disappointed when the industry's like, but I'm also not thrilled when the industry's like, you're great.
Yeah.
The noise is the noise.
Where do you think that comes, by the way, behind your camera
Yes.
is your family.
Yes.
Where do you think that comes from? You talk about, you're like, I don't see myself as anything.
Well, it's actually fun to have my parents here. When I get accolades, like you're the best, I think I'm the byproduct of.
Yeah.
Right? I'm the byproduct of. My brain doesn't go to like, I'm so great. I'm like, I had a lot of circumstances that went well for me DNA-wise, environment-wise, and then I was extremely well parented. So one of the reasons I enjoy getting accolades is I think it's roses to my parents.
Yeah.
Right? Like, and I know that even more now as I become a parent, because when I think about one of my children being remarkable at school or one of my children being remarkable at basketball, I take a lot more credit for the basketball than the school. But the reality is that I think it comes from that, but it also comes from another place, which is the following. I love sports.
Yeah.
I learned very early in my life, whether the crowd was booing or cheering, that had no impact on the outcome of the game. When teams went to New York and they were from Chicago and the whole crowd booed them, they still won if they were better. And when teams in New York went to Chicago and everybody was rooting for Chicago, it didn't make them win either. And so I think very early on, I understood that the noise had no variable on success. And at the end of the day, the results would speak. To your point, when you were growing up, when I was growing up in this business, Harriet, like everybody said that I would be gone in a minute.
Yeah.
This is a fly by night. This is a flash in a pan. Well, that's not what happened.
Yeah.
We built the largest independent global media and creative agency in the world. And that's whether they were right, I was right, that is what has become.
Yeah.
And that tends to change the narrative.
In the book, you talk a lot about like, this industry is very obsessed with yesterday and they're very obsessed with tomorrow.
That's what's happened this week, right?
Yeah.
This entire week. AI, AI, tomorrow. Award-winning work. The commercial, the award, yesterday. The amount of conversation in this town about social media creative is almost non-existent.
Because it's happening now, and they don't understand.
People want it regulated, banned. It's so powerful that it's ruining our children's lives, but it's not powerful enough to sell fucking sneakers?
Yeah.
The fuck is everyone talking about? So the delusion between how people talk about it in social settings versus how they talk about it in business settings, and it comes down to, and this will make a lot of sense to you based on what I'm watching you're up to from afar, it's because people don't understand how to do it well.
Yeah.
It's because they don't understand how to do it well. The reason people aren't talking about it is they're scared because if it becomes more important, they become in trouble because they're not good at it. It's very easy to be good at coming up with an idea and convincing everyone it's a good idea when there's no ramifications, when there's no way to measure it.
Yeah.
But on social media, you can't hide.
You immediately know.
Creatives don't like doing social by themselves for social because if it only gets 85 views, you've been exposed.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter how many awards you've won. They're running away from merit. They're running away from truth. And they're going to have to pay the piper eventually. Because the sad story for all the creatives that want to run away from this is television's going that way. Netflix and Hulu and YouTube, their commercials are going to be measurable too. Because people are going to switch from YouTube to Hulu in the middle. People don't get it. NBC couldn't see that you were leaving the fucking show because the commercial was bad. But Hulu and Netflix and all of them can. And that's how social works. Social's framework is going to eat up television, and then they're going to have nowhere to hide.
And I feel like that's what people didn't understand. It felt like you were against these creative directors or against creative.
It was the reverse.
In your book, you talk about it is the time now where good creative will win.
My keynote speech at the Palais last year was, let these creatives be creative.
Yeah.
The creative director, actually back to a very famous, for me, Cannes story here. 6 or 7 years ago at the Carlton at like 2 a.m, a creative director from Gary Bowen comes up to me, because I looked at his little badge, and he goes, Gary, I don't like you. I'm like, okay. I'm like, why? He goes, you're not about the work.
Yeah.
He goes, you're not about the work. And for everybody in the back scenes that don't know what that means, my parents, that means you don't respect the craft that it takes to make a 30-second video for a commercial. And I looked at him and said, brother, this was a very fun moment for me because he was very confused. I said, I'm the only person here that is fighting for the work. This is politics and facade. What this is real life. And that's why so many brands and people have become famous in social, because that's where the attention actually is. And it was funny, I give the guy credit. He was very caught off guard with the way I responded. We bantered for 30 minutes.
Did you remember him this time?
You know, the reason I bring up Gary Bowen is I actually don't remember the gentleman, but I remember the company.
Yeah.
And I remember the conversation, and it might have even been 8, 10 years ago. I just remember everybody thinks, at least with the Oscars, when you win an Oscar, we as humans see it. But the Oscar doesn't represent the movie that made the most money. It represents the subjective opinion of people that judge movies. But at least we all see it. And when it wins the Oscar, we then all go and watch it, even if we didn't want to see it. When somebody wins an award here for a bad commercial, nobody goes and watches the commercial.
Yeah.
Nobody knows this exists. We have to accept that.
Yeah. What I want to touch on, again, the future and the past thing, because it feels like the past is just, hey, other people did it this way, and that's like best practices.
Tried and true.
Yeah, and AI feels like, oh, that's like 3 years away, so let's just talk about it endlessly in a loop.
Well, because we have to also recognize that this is one big sales conference.
Yeah.
This isn't about creativity.
Yeah.
What the fuck is everyone doing here? The platforms, the agencies are here to get the money of the brands. The brands are here to get awards to justify to their boards that it works. Like, what are we doing here? Like, who wants to talk about the truth?
Yeah.
Half the people here to drink rosé and fucking jerk off for a week. Like, what are we doing here? And meanwhile, businesses are losing market share. There's a reason CMOs get fired all the time. The board and the CEO is pissed. That's bad. Like, I don't want that for this industry. I don't want that for... How many creatives love their job?
Very few, I think.
Very few.
Yeah.
They come to work, they're trying to do creativity. The client's like, I don't like this. They're sad because they all want to actually be artists, but they're often not good enough to be artists.
Yeah. But do you, and they're not getting to, like you said, they're not really getting to be creative, right? Because they're just trying to prove out the work before
funny.
They do the work.
That little razz that I just said, like, but you're not good enough to be an artist. I'm not doing that to upset people. I'm trying to do that to poke them, to inspire them to go be artists.
Yeah.
I love the creatives. I'm creative. I love creativity. But this is Madison Avenue.
Yeah.
This is corporate. This isn't creative. And like, I think when you understand that, that actually gives you a chance to start the process of creative. But every single creative agency is owned by a bank.
I don't think we talk about that enough. Like a French,
right?
like a European bank.
A European
owns
bank
owns all the agencies.
All of them.
Yeah. Even the ones we think are independent, by the way.
No shit.
Are owned by somebody.
Accenture owns Droga.
Yeah.
Accenture.
Yeah. WP, Wire Plastic Products.
And by the way, let me be clear, because I think people are often confused when I talk. I have a lot of admiration for the holding companies. You went around and M&A'd all these little companies and created a multi-billion-dollar company. Good for you. But let's not sit around here. I heard on one pass by in a meeting, we're creating culture. Like, no, you're not. Culture is not being created by Madison Avenue. Nobody's seeing a television commercial and saying like, that's, I mean, I don't know. Honestly, it's exhausting.
Yeah.
To see how big the delusion continues to be. And yeah, I'm sad because what I see on the other end, brother, is when creatives come to our shop.
Yep.
From Wyden, from 72 and Sunny, from Droga, from Crispin, from Gray, from all these iconic, by the way, I have a lot of respect for all these places. It takes them like a year to almost like decompress.
Unlearn that.
They have to, it's hard because they're used to, especially at the senior level, they're used to their opinion being lowered. And I'm like, I tell them in the interview process, I'm like, humility is the only way to win here.
Talk to me about post.
And I real quick, I thank you for that, but I want to say this, not humility of be humble, humility of like, you're gonna put your creative, like you, Johnny and Susan, as the senior creative, you're gonna make an ad and it's gonna go into social, and when it gets 97 views, you need to say, I didn't hit it, not the platform was wrong.
Yeah.
Or somebody said to me, my creativity is too advanced for humans, they don't get me yet. I'm like, then you should quit.
Yeah.
Because we're here to sell shit, and if they don't get you, then I'm gonna fire you anyway, because they need to get you, because we need to sell shit.
Yeah.
Like, go be an artist if you're an artist. Don't take a corporate job and act like a fucking artist.
Yeah, and that's a perfect segue to post-creative strategy. I don't know if anybody in the holding company advertising world is talking about post-creative strategy. It feels like we do strategy for months and months and months and months. We create a piece of content, we put it out there, we hope for the best, and we go kind of start that process again. You're saying a creative makes something, it gets 90 views, that's when post-creative strategy comes in.
And more importantly, and yes, it also gets 100 comments.
Yeah.
And when you read those comments from real life people, you could start understanding what the customer thinks, right? I was trained in marketing in the trenches, lemonade stands, baseball card shows, tables, and at my dad's liquor store. All I did was watch people. Why didn't they stop by my table and buy my baseball cards? And why did they stop at that guy's third table? And then I would go look at what that third table. When I was at my dad's store, may he rest in peace, Willie Barnett, he used to make the signs before I started in the liquor store. His signs sucked because he didn't really want to do it, but if he didn't, my dad was going to yell at him. So I started making the signs, and my signs did better. and then they got better and better and better. I was doing outdoor and print ads and in-store marketing. I learned how to make signs, not by just writing what the price was, but I would talk to customers. I would I would watch what word I would say to them that made them buy the wine, and then I would put that word on the sign. I learned in the trenches. I became a copywriter to make the thing happen, not to be fancy and win an award. So the destiny of how I got into this industry, I was born to win in it because I learned marketing to drive the business, to be consumer truth, not to be corporate.
To talk to people.
Humans, understand, it's human psychology. You need to be a therapist, you need to be a psychiatrist, you need to be a guidance counselor DNA to be great at marketing, not a banker.
Do you think a corporation is able to act like a person now? That because it is made by a lot of people, and you talk in your book a lot about like your personality and what it will find your audience. And when it's a corporation, it's a big team. How do you do that as like a company?
That's a really good question. Here's what I would say. People have many different versions of themselves.
Yeah.
Gary Vee in Madison Avenue is obviously like frustrated and trying to help change. Gary Vee at a Jets game is really frustrated, but not in control at all.
That's not when you're gonna win.
Not in control. Gary Vee as a brother is a different animal. And when I'm speaking to college kids as an entrepreneur, different animal. So I actually have a lot of different versions. If you look at my content, many brands would struggle with it because it would feel off-brand because I'm doing too many different things. I actually believe that's on brand because I'm meaning something to so many people that it creates scale. So the industry wants to sell vanilla to everybody and nobody wants it. And I'm Baskin Robbins with every flavor for everyone and going up.
That's the best analogy you could have put. You
like that?
Yeah, that's awesome.
So basically, what do I think? I think even when a brand has 87 different people, all of them can contribute to their interpretation of Prada, of Vans, of Moet Hennessy, right? And I think those little nuances, they'll be in the same general park because they all kind of know what they're up to, right? They know they're selling a handbag or a bottle of champagne. And I actually think all those nuances and interpretations are good.
Yeah.
And to your point, with the way the algorithms work now, all those different pieces of content will find their audience.
Yeah.
And I think the biggest issue for brands growing their business, forget about creativity, is they're not relevant enough to enough different consumer segmentations. When Vans, that your wonderful camera person is wearing right now, when that brand was only for surfer dudes in California, it had a business. When it crossed over to being cool in urban Black America, its business grew. It now mattered to multiple people. Because everybody wants to be on brand, and because a creative lead wants to come up with a slogan and then wants to dictate to everyone exactly how it has to look, how she or he sees it, it keeps it very limited. I really think about it in a little bit of a way. This is really going to be an interesting analogy. I've thought about it a bunch, but probably having my folks behind the screen triggered it just now. I actually think the way that the advertising industry wants to do marketing is like the Soviet Union. They want to control everything from the beginning. Everyone's in jail, stuck. This is my way, dictatorship. And I think the way I see marketing is more like the USA, which is there's freedom until you fuck up and then you go into jail.
Yeah.
I give my team plenty of freedom, but if all the ads don't do well, you're in trouble. It's called merit.
Yeah.
Whereas the way everybody else was, I came up with this slogan and everything has to look like this and I'm gonna control it. And then that's why junior and mid-tier creatives hate their job. Literally this industry that you lived in is, I'm gonna eat shit for 25 years and get yelled out and get suppressed and get judged and all the bad shit just so I can get to the top so that I could do that to the people.
Again.
Are you fucking
It's
kidding
generational
me?
trauma.
It's generational trauma. 100,000.
That's why there's so much insecurity in this business. That's why it's just generational trauma.
It's so, honestly, one of the reasons, I thought I was gonna be in this industry for like 5 minutes. I don't know if you know this. I thought I was coming here, me and AJ were gonna build this little thing quickly, build a marketing infrastructure, and then I was gonna build a business on top of it and get the fuck out. I don't want clients.
Yeah.
But two things happened. One, I realized I was gonna build a massive business because everybody's not good at it. And two, I hate how unhappy everyone is, and I'm like, fuck it. If I build the biggest company in the whole industry and my people are actually happy, I can actually change the whole industry because everyone's gonna copy me. And to that point, to your last question, I was walking last night home 3 kids who have a little agency in London with a camera, roll up on me, right? I'm for that generation, right?
Yeah.
They're mentioning, we just hired a PCS. Like, I smiled so hard. We're inventing new vernacular. And they're like, how do we get into this? This is the big guy. They're like all about that. And they just were joyous. And like, and when they said to me, they're like, how do we break through to this? I'm like, by not even caring to break through.
These people are gonna die.
Do not pander to them.
Yeah.
Look, they're not gonna die because corporate America and corporations are gonna keep them alive.
Yeah.
It's not that they're gonna die. It's just I was trying to tell those kids, you don't want this.
Yeah.
This is not what you think you want it. Because in the short term, you want the money, you may even want the awards. But in the long term, you will not enjoy it.
My favorite quote, by the way, in this book, and I've just said it to so many friends in the last few days, is that before you can dunk a basketball, you have to walk. You have to learn to walk and not shit your pants. It's my favorite quote maybe of all time. And it's awesome. And which, when we got rained out, we got canceled, and they were like, oh, we just got to pack this up. And I was like, before you can learn how to dunk a basketball, you just got to learn to walk and not shit your pants.
That's right.
If we can switch from like brands to you.
Yeah.
And your social media team is maybe the most dialed in thing I've ever seen.
Yep.
How does that work? What is that team like? What is that process like?
It's funny to see Dustin in the corner when you say that. This is the best part of the humility. We're dialed in, but Dustin knows, he knows where I'm about to answer. We're not at our apex right now. I'm very busy trying to build Vaynerx, I'm building VFriends in a really meaningful way because I'm really building that IP. I have a kids book coming out in a couple of weeks. I have cartoons coming out in the fall. I'm stretched.
Yep.
The Gary V brand, and by the way, I've been pretty active with sign up for winetext.com. I've been very active in my dad's business more than like in the past, like, it ebbs and flows like everything with me. So right now, Gary V is like 4th, 5th, and I'm like, actually, honestly, my personal life, like I'm spending more time on, so like the time I'm spending on building Gary V is lower and I'm feeling the effects of it. And a lot of the talent on my team has gone to VFriends or within VaynerX. So Dustin, Sid, and I, and a couple of leaders, like we actually are probably in a good mood right now because I think, another quote I think about it, like, you can't fix something you can't see.
Yeah.
You can't fix something you can't see. And so I think last year or so, it took me about 6 months to see like, oh shit, I'm feeding everything else with this machine. This machine now I gotta pump it back in. And so, but the way it works is we film content at scale, and then we post-produce that content for the platforms. It's not like there'll be times, also, yesterday I signaled to Dustin in the middle of an interview like this, he knows what that means. That means I'm gonna want that clipped. We're obviously looking at all the new AI tools. Like, can we ingest all the raw footage and see what it pumps out? We're thinking about this constantly.
How big is that team?
That team fluctuates between 20 and 50 people.
Got it.
20 to 50 full-time employees just on my personal brand content for social. So think about when I talk to the biggest brands in the world this morning, airlines, alcohol. I'm sitting with them all day, and they got 3 or 4 people for the whole brand. You know how insane that is?
Yeah.
I'm a little fucking one dude.
Yeah.
And I got 20, 30, 40 full-time employees just for social media creative. And the biggest airlines in the world, the biggest beer brands in the world, the biggest consumer brands in the world, they have 3, 4, 5 people max. The amount of money they allocate, these are multi-billion-dollar companies. I'm a pimple on a pimple on the pimple's ass of them, and I've got more allocated money to building brand on social than they do. That's insane. That makes absolutely no sense.
They're probably spending more money on, they're probably spending $40 million on media and buying people's attention instead of earning people's attention, right?
But this is the misnomer. They're not buying people's attention.
They think they're buying people's attention.
Right?
Yes.
These are like important nuances. Gary, we spend $100 million in media. I'm like, and?
Where'd it go?
If you're spending it on potential reach, because they call it reach and frequency, but it's not actualized reach. If I go give the greatest keynote of my career in the middle of that ocean later with nobody around, it doesn't mean shit. Some of the best one-liners and clips I've said in the shower, I'm like, oh, I have to remember it, gone. And that's it. Yeah. I didn't get 10 million views. Nobody was there. They're running ads digitally and on television and on billboards and on radio and all these other places that are not being seen. Of course, when people hear me, they misunderstand me. I'm not talking in absolutes.
Yeah, of course.
Do I believe that some of you have seen some commercials? Of course. But is the math worth it? Like, what if you spent that $80 million on media and $20 million on creative and spent $100 million on Facebook and YouTube? Many more people would see it.
In the book, you actually talk about how Super Bowl ads are great. Like, that buy is worth it.
The best deal in the world, by the way.
Yeah.
Like, my company's global. I'm talking about everything in the world. The number one ad is the Super Bowl in America. 120 million Americans.
Engaged audience.
Want to watch the 30-second video and watch it. I can't take a client's $8 million and use Facebook and Snap and LinkedIn and YouTube and influencers and podcasts. I can't get them 130 million people to watch 30 seconds.
Yeah. And the same 30 seconds. And it feels like we're not watching the same 30 seconds.
Everything that this world wants still exists in one narrow place, the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
The problem is, it's a selfish industry. They make an ad for them to win an award and get new business, not an ad that sells stuff for their client, which is why more clients don't do Super Bowl. They've had too many bad experiences where they've spent the money. The media was a good deal, but they wasted the money on a celebrity. They wasted the money on a video that was done for the creative agency, not for the brand.
They have teasers for the Super Bowl commercial, which I think is wildly funny.
There's so many things that are funny.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I think these are the themes that excite me, and to the point, and I really appreciate you telling me that story. We were taught to hate you. What's fun now is I'm on the other side of this. By the way, this happened to me in the wine business. When I started Wine Library TV in 2006, the industry did not like it. They thought it was silly, I wasn't respectful, I wasn't wearing a suit, I wasn't a sommelier, I wasn't. And I kept telling them at the Wine Spectator event in Midtown Manhattan, at wineries, I kept telling them, one day I'm gonna be gone and you're gonna see. And when I left and went to the advertising industry, a couple years went by, and then Food and Wine, or Wine, I don't remember, I think it was Wine and Spirits magazine, they wrote an article of like, basically was like, we miss Gary Vee. And the article was, he was creating wine drinkers out of thin air of young people when the industry needed young wine drinkers. And all we did was sit around and shit on him because he called it like bubblegum instead of the word we wanted. And he was more New Jersey than he was fucking can. And then I left, and that was it. And honestly, I feel like the same thing's gonna happen here. There's gonna be a day within the decade where I won't be here day to day because I'm gonna be on to something else that's more interesting and important to me. And everyone's gonna sit around, and the brands, the agencies are gonna be thrilled.
Can I have your yacht then?
You sure can. just like in the wine business, my competitive wine stores are thrilled that I'm gone, but the wineries and the industry aren't. And here the same thing will happen. My competitors, the agencies here, they're gonna be pumped. I'm a lot to deal with the candor and aggressiveness that I come with. But who's gonna be upset is the brands, because they're not gonna get the benefit of the pressure. When people hire VaynerMedia, they not only get VaynerMedia, every other agency that's in the mix changes out their entire team because they know I'm coming for fucking real. So miraculously, when we get hired, oh, we're gonna just switch out some people on our team. No, you're not. You're taking your A players that you have on your side and you're bringing them and moving out your B players that you've been using to get margin on the client because you know I'm not fucking around, I'm coming to take your business.
It also feels like you have a point of view, and very few agencies have a point, like, because it feels like professional basketball, like this player's here now and that person's here now. It's just kind of the same
By the way, now being transparent and vulnerable on my side, it's my biggest challenge. Because everybody else plays a different game, it's very hard for us to hire because I'm paying people to train them for a couple years.
Yeah.
Like it's a challenge.
Completely different topic. What do you think about shoppable content?
Obsessed.
Yeah, by the way, this is going to be shoppable and we're going to sell your book.
Thank you. I mean, China showed you.
Yeah.
Like when I talk a lot about virtual influencers now, it's going to be a big deal. And people are like, no, I'm like, just look at Japan.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know how people are so like, by the way, if I may, that's how I think about marketing. Everyone's like, Gary, I'm like, do you watch what's going on with Prime Energy? Do you see what's going on with Poppy? Do you know what Beastables is? Like now everyone has a problem because I have examples of kids starting multi-billion-dollar brands doing what I'm saying.
And you can buy, it felt like you could watch the Papa John's commercial and then you had to get off and then you had to get the number and call Papa. Now you can just click the commercial and you've got the pizza.
Well, now you're talking why Amazon's gonna build such a monster. Amazon Prime and Amazon is a monster that is gonna unleash on the world that's gonna be gnarly. You're gonna watch shows and everything's gonna be shoppable. You're gonna watch a show on Amazon Prime, a new Emily, let's say they do Emily in Paris instead of Netflix. In 5 to 7 years, as the tech stack gets done, and as consumer behavior, you're gonna literally be watching Emily in Paris, and you can pause the screen and buy her hat on Amazon in 2 seconds. It's gonna be no friction. I'm gonna be watching the Jets on Amazon Prime, and when a new rookie makes a great play, and I'm gonna buy his jersey on the spot. It's gonna be frictionless. So, and then obviously TikTok is gonna do that. And so, Shoppable content, because now you have AI image recognition.
Yeah.
Like the image recognition is gonna know everything we're wearing. Like you have really nice green pants on.
Thank you.
You have to have really crazy technology to know which brand this is. That's coming. And you know how subtle it is? This could be any fucking brand.
Yeah.
And for the technology to know by the stitching, like you know how insane that is?
Yeah.
That they're gonna be able to map that and somebody can buy those green pants in the middle of this podcast. It's fucking profound.
And also content being made, right? That's like, there is content, there is shoppable moments in there, but content being made for shopping, like this,
and I would,
like QVC.
Yes, but I would say that what's gonna be cool, and this is how I think about marketing. VaynerMedia is a creative AOR.
Yeah.
We just have social embedded into the batter of it's the ingredient, right?
Yeah.
It's not over here. That's what's gonna happen with Shoppable at best. I think that when you, when we all create, in 20 years, you're just gonna know that it's shoppable. Right now, none of us know that. Right. When we make a video, we don't think it's shoppable.
Right.
In 20 years, we're all gonna know this is all shoppable. So miraculously, we might be sitting on different chairs.
Yeah.
Right? Because these chairs might be sponsored by somebody that wants to fucking sell these chairs. It's gonna change everything.
Or we've made the chairs just for this to see if it works, and if it works, we can make more chairs.
Or when you get big enough and you have a big enough platform, if you're big enough and you have a big enough platform, instead of me getting $10,000 from a chair company, I'm gonna start my own chair brand because I have the attention. I'm not gonna rent, I'm gonna own.
Yeah.
I lived it. I did wine shows to sell wine, then I created my own wine and I sold it to Constellation.
Yeah. Last question. You said in a podcast that you were deciding between making a wine show or making a show about the Jets.
Yes.
Do you regret not doing the other one?
Desperately.
Do you think you would have been just as successful?
Ooh, here's a fun fact. No, I think wine was a broader, no, I had the advantages of having the wine. I learned, like the Jets show would have been fun. And by the way, the fun fact of fun facts, my brother's the first vlogger in our family. I was thinking about it, and then I told AJ, he was a freshman at BU, he was just starting, I said, AJ, do me a favor, start making this Jets videos called it Jets TV. And so he actually did it. And then a couple months later, I started Wine Library TV. With the Jets thing, it would have had the same passion. I would have definitely been a sports announcer if I wanted to, all that. But what I had with Wine Library was I could see what was happening. You know, prior to Wine Library TV, everything I did as a marketer for my dad's store, I had to spend marketing money to make it happen. I'd have to buy a full page ad in the Star Ledger or the New York Times, and then I would have to do good creative, Silver Oak at this price, to make it work. YouTube was the first time that I was doing something where I didn't have to pay a penny. I was making content and I was seeing the sales on the back end. And so I was able to learn a lot with Wine Library TV because I had an e-commerce and retail store, because it wasn't just that it was selling on winelibrary.com, I was working the floor, and on Saturday somebody would come in and say, hey, do you have that Pinot Gris that was on Wine Library? So I was understanding its effects in the trenches.
You understood product strategy,
which became the foundation of building this.
Thank you for writing this textbook, and I call it a textbook because I like the format is wider. It's supposed to be a textbook, and it felt like I was reading just a book, and I really appreciate how deep you go into explaining how to do, like, I feel like this interview is fine. I feel like you can learn everything you need to know about this industry in a real way in this. So thank you for writing it. You know, I appreciate that, and I think as a creative, and you know, it's funny, and I can feel your energy on this, and this is what I want to say. You could watch this interview. I say this a lot with my folks. You find what you're looking for.
there's a lot of people that could watch this interview, and this goes to the book, this is why I'm saying this. You could watch this interview and be like, Gary's just fucking shitting on, or you could see it that way, or you could see that I'm begging you to be happier and make good creative. I have literally, this book has built a $300 million company for me. My company, when they saw this book, were like, what the fuck are you doing? You're giving away all the secrets. I wrote this book for the industry to do it. This is the book that has built our company. And I went in deep, it's a textbook.
Yeah.
I'm not just saying do social media. I gave you exactly what to do.
Yeah.
This is how insane this is. I am so confident that this industry is about politics, not about work, that I literally am giving them what to do, and I know they're not gonna do it. But I hope some of the creative directors that are watching, do you know that Mike, the founder of Liquid Death, the day before he started Liquid Death, worked at VaynerMedia? I want every single person that works for me at VaynerMedia to quit and build their own business on this, let alone everybody else in the industry. I just hope people hear me.
Yeah. Well, I really hope people do, and I hope people buy this book, off this book. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Really, thank you for doing this. Appreciate it.
Thank you.